So I started combining my love of food, fitness and fun, and I developed what I call Cook Fit. Because food and consciousness, I mean, it's a marriage made in heaven, right? Because food is light, food is energy, and food is consciousness. So if our bodies are made up of spirit in a physical form, that's cells and tissues, these require energy to survive. So we eat this food to maintain our physical state. But we're more than physical beings, we're soul beings, right? Which means we're consciousness. We're consciousness in a physical body. So I truly believe the reason that we're all placed on this earth is to give us a chance to grow and mature our souls. That's my true belief. And for me, when I take it back to the food, I have a mantra. Spirit makes the food, and food makes the blood, and blood makes the cells, and cells makes the tissue, and tissue makes the organs, and here we be every single day.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. I have such exciting guests this week, and I can't wait to introduce them to you. Just a few things. Thank you, everybody who supports this podcast. Thank you for all who donate. Thank you for all who are on the YouTube subscription and also subscribing to my newsletter, which you can find at thespiritualforum.org. Let me introduce my guests now. Marlene Watson-Tara and Bill Tara. They are founders of the Human Ecology Project. And the mission of the Human Ecology Project is to communicate the deep connections between human well-being, environmental sustainability, a healthy society, and the rights of all living things in a clear and grounded way that respects science, ancient wisdom, and common sense. I love that mission, and that's why they're on today. They're both authors, they're both teachers. Marlene's a dedicated health counselor with over 40 years of teaching in the health industry, and Bill's been a health counselor, entrepreneur, and creator of health education centers in Europe and North America for 57 years. I'm going to have their full bio in the show notes. Welcome, Marlene and Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. It's a joy to be with you, and thank you for having us. Very excited to chat, as always, about our passion for a healthy world.
Yes, I love that. The spiritual connection to this is, taking care of our planet, awakening to the oneness we have with all creatures, and taking care of our bodies. All of that is spiritual work. So what you guys are doing is encompassing all of it. So before we get into the Human Ecology Project, which I can't wait to hear more about, I'd love for each of you to kind of briefly tell your own spiritual story so we can get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll dig into the work that you're doing.
Would you like me to go first, or Bill?
You go.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Marlene.
Okay. So, I have so much to say, so just tell me when to stop, Carol,
Okay.
right?
No.
The thing is,
I'll catch you later.
It's always hard to do.
I'm always so energized, excited, engaged, and always to be in service for a healthy world for humans and non-humans alike, right? So sharing my love of health, yoga, spirituality, and compassionate living is my daily work. And I have been blessed to do this work for 43 years. And it's such a privilege. And each day, I'm so grateful for not only my own health, but for the energy. As I got older, I seem to have more energy, if that's possible. Next year, I'll be 68. I had the same energy at 28, 38, 48, 58. And I think when you live your life with a purpose, with such passion, I'm telling you, it just percolates out every single day. So the first thing I would love to just kind of talk about is the fact that it's so important to connect or reconnect with your own true self. And being connected to ourselves, it means that, we're living our truth, our peace, our purpose. It gives you freedom and joy. But as we all know, in today's society, it's so easy to live a life of disconnection. dedication and passion and inspiration are the foundations for me anyway, for a fulfilling and successful life. So no matter what challenges that we have, and with all the challenges in life, every single person is gifted with talent, with skills, with gifts and the power to become amazing. That's truly what I believe, and that's what Bill and I teach our students. So, you know, when we're growing up, we aren't taught about the spiritual nature of life, right? And we're never explained about the interconnectedness of everything. We're never taught about the true essence or the peace and stillness that exists in every single one of us. And we're never told that the basic nature of humanity is compassion. So, you know, when these truths are simply unknown to us, and unless we go on a quest to try and find them out for ourselves, it can lead to a lot of disconnection. Every single person we meet, they're busy, they're living fast-paced lives, they're always doing something, they're achieving something, accomplishing, they're overworked. We tell people they're stressed, they're wired but tired, right? They're worrying and they're living in their heads. They never slow down. And that's why I love teaching, really being present and reconnecting with your own authentic self and finding out who you are at a deeper level. So for me, when I was a wee girl, about 7 years old, the family at school would go on these residential trips. It was like 2 weeks in the summer. And I remember we were at the ocean, and it was way out from far away where I lived in the city. And it was autumn time, and there was these incredible colorful leaves that I had never seen before. And I remember picking this one up, and it was red and golden. It was just incredibly breathtaking. So on a Saturday on this retreat, we would go to the post office, and we were allowed to write little letters to our mum or friends or whatever. And we got a silver sixpence. I don't know if you would know what that is. A silver sixpence was like 2 pennies. And we were allowed to buy something at the shop. But I spent my sixpence on a stamp, right? And I posted this leaf. And up until the age of 95, my wee mum still had it. And I was telling her about this beautiful leaf and how I just felt so amazed by it. So that was probably my first true connection about feeling at one with nature. And nature to me has been my life, you know. And the other area I just wanted to focus on, another connection that I really felt about finding out about my true self and my own spirit, and what inspired me was I wouldn't eat meat when I was a wee girl. So mum fed me copious amounts of dairy food. When I was constantly constipated, my appendix burst and nearly died with peritonitis. I had my tonsils and adenoids removed with mumps, too much dairy. I had my gallbladder removed. This is all when I was very young. So there's 4 missing pieces of my immune system, and I'm never sick. And here I am in a couple of years being 70, and I have energy and health. And I truly believe in my heart it sent me. That was my quest to go and look at what was happening in my life. And I discovered traditional Chinese medicine, macrobiotics, and I started looking at food because I ate huge amounts of dairy food. And when I switched, took all that dairy food out and became vegan, so this is a long time ago, my energy soared, my emotional needs changed, my mental and energetic body changed. And for me, you know, it's been the most incredible journey of my life to find that what was happening as a child with all these illnesses and all these missing body parts was actually down to diet, right? So that's been my quest in life. And in traditional Chinese medicine, we teach a beautiful concept, what I love anyway, it's the light of the body, and it's referred to as the Shen. And the Shen, as we know, is usually translated through spirit, and it refers to that aspect of our being that is actually spiritual. So it embodies consciousness and the emotions and the thoughts. So I then started teaching traditional Chinese medicine and understanding Chen, which took me into yoga, and I've been a yoga teacher, which I absolutely love teaching. The principles of ahimsa, which is do no harm to any other being. So I started combining my love of food, fitness, and fun, and I developed what I call Cook Fit, because food and consciousness, I mean, it's a marriage made in heaven, right? Because food is light, food is energy, and food is consciousness. So if our bodies are made up of spirit in a physical form, that cells and tissues, these require energy to survive. So we eat this food to maintain our physical state. But we're more than physical beings. We're soul beings, right? Which means we're consciousness. We're consciousness in a physical body. So I truly believe the reason that we're all placed on this earth is to give us a chance to grow and mature our souls. That's my true belief. And for me, when I take it back to the food, I have a mantra. Spirit makes the food, and food makes the blood, and blood makes the cells, and cells makes the tissue, and tissue makes the organs, and here we be every single day. So I always say to people, what we eat doesn't stop here. It feeds the brain, and that's our consciousness. So, I mean, I could go on, and on forever, but, I just get so passionate because I experience what I experience, right? And for me, the moral reasons are reasons of the heart. And I would love to try and continue to contribute to our evolution of the heart because I really feel that that's what the world is needing. So that's my little story.
That's fabulous. You're so passionate and filled with joy. I want to talk to Bill, but would you please repeat that again, that food is made by spirit? And what's that whole chain that you said? Would you say that again?
Yeah. So, Carol, spirit makes the food, and food makes the blood, and blood makes the cells, and cells makes the tissue, and tissue makes the organs. And this is who we are every day, right? But what we always try and say to people, Bill and I, is what we eat doesn't stop at the neck. It feeds the brain.
Right,
this is what's nourishing. This is where our consciousness comes from, right? So we always laugh at when our students and clients come in our courses and they say, you're always irritating, Marlene, because you're always happy, but because I eat happy food, because when you're eating, remember the gut and the brain connection is one. There's more neurons in the gut than there are in the brain. So what we eat, so we always say, happy bugs or happy gut, happy me, right? So it's impossible, honestly, no matter what happens, you keep looking at the positive and it's the food, because that's who we are, it's what we become. We're only 10% human, by the way. 90% of the cells in our body are not us, they're bacteria, they're microbes. So we completely fill this 10% every day with the most amazing food, Bill and I, right? And we teach all our students and clients. And everybody becomes happy. They do.
Becomes happy. That's what we're all about here. Okay, thanks, Marlene. Thank you. So, Bill.
Hi.
Hi. What would you like to tell us about yourself?
Well, I come from a completely different environment than Marlene. She's in Glasgow, Scotland, and cold and rainy Scotland, and I'm from sunny California. I grew up in the north coast of California, and I guess that I have to talk about my spiritual life in terms of my connection with the environment. And I was very fortunate when I was young. My father was sort of an outdoorsman, and so we spent all that time when other families would be going someplace for a vacation. We would be going into the mountains. That was what we did, and I always had this affinity for being either close to the ocean or in the forests or wherever. That was where I felt like, oh, there's something different happens here than happens in the city and in our home life. And that particularly became very pronounced when I was in my teens, and you go through this kind of angst when you're a teenager. And this was the only place I could find any solstice was sitting by the ocean or going into the mountains. And that became kind of an escape in a sense, but not an escape from society per se, but just an escape from things that I thought were creating static in my life. I had to focus on what I was doing. And in the high Sierras, one time, I had an interesting situation where I had a communion with a bear, which really affected me very, very deeply. I was on the side of this river. We were fishing, and I was on the side of this river, and I stopped for a moment, and I was sitting down, and I had this strange feeling, you get when you think somebody's looking at you. And I looked right across the river, which was not a very big river. It was fairly small. And there was a big bear sitting on the other side, sitting like a human would, kind of which they do sometimes, so sitting up and just looking at me. And we spent the longest period of time in that kind of connectedness. I mean, he didn't, or she, I don't know whether it was a he or she, he didn't look away at all. He kept focused on me and I kept focused on him. And I had this incredible feeling of peacefulness come over me. And it wasn't long after that when I got a book. Somebody gave me a book on the Tao Te Ching. And I got interested in Chinese Taoism because it seemed to speak so much for that kind of consciousness. That we are really, because I had no philosophical framework to put any of that together with, and Taoism really gave me that. I never became involved religiously with Taoism, but I immersed myself in Taoist writings, and many years, not many years, but about 6 or 7 years passed with me reading all of this. And then I had a health crisis. And at the time of that health crisis, a friend of mine gave me a book on macrobiotics. And it was very unique and very shocking in a sense, because in the book it said you could cure and just almost anything just by changing your eating. And the medication that I was taking, that was being prescribed to me by my doctor, was not being effective at all. It was terrible, and it actually made me feel worse than when I took the medicine. So I stopped taking it. And so I just thought, well, I'll try this, and I did it. And after a couple of months, all of the pain, I had very, very severe ulceration in the stomach. They were considering operations on my stomach, and I was young. I was only 24 years old, and uh, I thought, well, wow, the pain has gone away completely. And so I went back to the doctor and I said, I want you to run tests again and see what's happening there. And when the tests came back, the test showed that the ulcers had all healed. And I thought, this is fantastic. I mean, how many people in the world have ulcers? How many people could be helped with this simple, simple, simple things that I did? And I told my doctor about those, and she became infuriated with me.
Gonna guess.
Rather than being excited, she became infuriated. And and she said I couldn't be her patient anymore if I continued doing this. And I was astounded by that. And when I left, I was very happy with the life course that I was taking up to then, my work and everything. When I left, I thought, this is amazing. This is not scientific. Certainly, it's not scientific, and it's not even doesn't have anything to do with common sense. Why would you reject something? It was your tests that showed that I had been cured, and I thought I have to learn more about this. And so I thought, well, I'll put my career on hold, and I'll go. I found out that there was a person who taught this approach to health and well-being, and also the spiritual aspects of that, across the country in Boston, Massachusetts. And so I traveled out there, and that's been my life ever since. Because it became an incredible journey of watching people change fundamentally, right down at their biological basis. And that's not always something that really just twigs your consciousness, obviously. I mean, but it does open a door for possibility. And one of the things that I've been interested in, and Marlene and I are both interested in, is that people need some practical things that they do every day that reminds them of what their life is all about. And, I mean, certainly meditation and maybe doing yoga, things like that, those are possibilities. But can't think of anything stronger than 3 times a day people sit down and eat. A lot of times people eat many more times than 3 times a day, but at least 3 times a day you sit down and you take this energy that Marlene was talking about into your body, and that becomes you. And that's a tremendous focus on what you're about. It's like a tweaking a memory. It's and also it's like modeling, because one of the things that we've noticed, and this is not certainly not devoted to nutrition alone, but people can always come up with things. Oh, well, that's too difficult to do, or that's hard to do, or that it makes you uptight or whatever. And so we think that when you're doing practices, whatever those practices are, and people can see it reflected in your life, in the way that you approach your life, that's, oh, well, maybe you can do that. Maybe I can do that, because they don't seem like they're really weird people. They seem like they're weird, but in a good way, right?
Weird in a good way.
Those people are good in a weird way, and maybe that's not so bad, So that's kind of our track. Right?
Okay. Thank you, Bill and Marlene. A couple things I want to reflect on. I think it's interesting that you both shared a personal spiritual experience. With Marlene, in your case, it was the leaf, and Bill, in your case, it was the bear. And I'm sure you've had other experiences in that. But I wanted to point that out because I think that children have these experiences probably all the time, but they're either distracted, or they're not taught to notice, or they don't like wallow in the realness of it, and they
Right.
something's disconnected. Because I think that as children, I watched I've got a little granddaughter. She's not quite a year and a half, and my daughter will send video of her, and you can just watch the child and how enamored that child is with whatever it is. And I remember watching my own first daughter and just watching her eyes just sparkle when she looked at the leaves quivering in the wind. And, she was having an experience, and you had your experience of the leaf, you had your experience of the bear. We all have these experiences, but either it's just like taught out of us, or we just don't stop enough to notice and go, wow, this is like profound. So I'm really glad you shared those stories, and I think that's a good place to start with children. The other thing is, Bill, how dare you heal yourself and go to a doctor?
I know. It's terrible. It's outrageous.
It's outrageous. I can't believe that. You should never do that. You should be sick and be on medicines for the rest of your life.
It's against the rules.
Yeah.
That's against the rules.
It's incredible.
But it's the same. It's the same thing as what you were just describing with children. Because social structures get set up that negate other people's experiences, so it completely negates them. So even people, and I've seen this, for almost 60 years now, working with people. Somebody in a family has a serious illness. It might be something like cancer, or very serious heart disease, and they start healing themselves, and other people in the family start treating them like they're a traitor.
To the system.
You're a traitor to the system that we believe in, and actually even sometimes undermining that person's progress. And I always think that's so sad, but it's so obvious that happens.
It's interesting. It's like a new religion. The other thing that I wanted to comment on before we go on is, I think what you're talking about when it comes to eating is that this is a spiritual practice. That when we have a meal, that this is a spiritual practice. I am guilty myself of, I feel like I eat well and I eat healthy, but I also don't pause and really, people can say grace or whatever, usually say grace and then you eat, but there's something that the very act of eating and bringing in the spiritual energy, the light, Marlene, that you talked about, into our bodies, that we don't eat as a spiritual practice. We eat for pleasure. We eat for just to fill our tummies, to be on the run, or I don't even know if we reflectively think that much about eating. So much of it is memories, and I like the taste of Doritos or whatever. But to think that in addition to what you're talking about, meditation and yoga and qigong and any of these practices, prayer, that eating is a spiritual practice, that we can make it a spiritual practice. And I think that's really an interesting idea.
Absolutely.
And it needs
And
it
yeah,
needs to be one, because I mean, look at when you look at some of the statistics around food, how much food is wasted. America wastes an incredible, I forget the percentage, but it's like 25% of
Yeah.
the food that gets bought gets wasted, or people walking down the street not thinking, shoving food in their mouth. I mean, there's no consciousness of that exchange of energy, and that's really
Yeah.
sad and dangerous.
Yeah.
yeah. If I can just say, Carol, we have the best fun when students or clients come to study with us, or if they come for health counselling. They're given a small bowl of short grain brown rice and a set of chopsticks. And we ask them that, because people bite and swallow, they don't even chew their food anymore. They just bite and swallow, right? So we ask them to chew the food 100 times before they swallow. And we have the best fun because they've got 16, nope, start again. No. And they keep going until and they have never actually chewed food in their life, right? And they actually, for once in their life, appreciate and understand what one grain of rice is, right? And how it feels when it's broken down into this liquid. And it's just incredible. And for us, that's a very spiritual way of letting people appreciate, whether you're giving thanks to the farmers or whatever, but just actually understanding the energy of the food coming into your body, unless you chew that food and appreciate, So when they get to 100, they're like, 100 chews before they get served the proper meal. It's great fun, but this is the thing. There has to be fun in learning as well. Otherwise, that people, and we always say, when people are working with Bill and I on a 21-day reset or whatever they're doing, it's the feeling better that keeps them going, because they start to have more energy and feel, and the pain subsiding or whatever's happening. So yeah, for me, food is the fundamental for spirituality, 100%.
Yeah. I just think that's so interesting. It's certainly not what our culture teaches us, and it's certainly not. I don't even know if it's culture.
No.
It's just not what our culture embraces. I do this. I eat on the run. you know, I, you guys
Yeah.
inspire me to do better.
We inspire ourselves to do better, because
Yeah.
it's an ingrained thing.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that. It's so easy to do that,
Yes, it
because
is.
the culture is almost saying, do this.
I
You
know.
know,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
eat this junk. It's tasty. Eat it and get it down quick, so you can go
Yeah.
get some more.
Yeah. Or just beyond, get to your next appointment, your next thing, and,
Yeah.
get that tummy feeling better or whatever. I want to talk about the Human Ecology Project, but would you please share, in case somebody doesn't understand what macrobiotics is, can you share briefly what that is?
Well, macrobiotics is a modern interpretation of something very old. In Fundamental to many Eastern religions were particularly dietary constraints, whether it was in India or whether it was in China or whether it was in Japan, particularly those cultures, which were deep developed cultures. They had writing before anybody else did. I mean, on a large basis, and they recorded all of their information. And it was about that kind of taking of energy in, and which we were just talking about, which is fundamental to even today in some religious practices like Zen Buddhism. It's very much acknowledged that you do that. In fact, that thing of eating small amounts of food and really letting it last a long time so that you can fully appreciate is still done today. Well, in the 1930s, a Japanese philosopher by the name of George Shawa took elements of traditional Chinese medicine and what I can't remember the Japanese word, but there's something that's loosely translated as food doctors, because they were very popular in China and in Japan. People that taught people how to eat for their illness. Right? He put those things together in a philosophy which used some of the basic elements of Taoism and Zen Buddhism and traditional Chinese medicine, put them together to what he felt was a practical and accessible way of approaching people so they could have body autonomy. his whole idea, and a thought that we reflect too in our work, is that we're all built to be healthy. And we can't do it, though, unless we understand the laws of nature. And the laws of nature that used to be talked about are really the laws of ecology. It's saying we take energy in, we harvest energy from the environment, it's transformed into us, and then we give back to the environment again. And so this process was there. Now it became bastardized a little bit over time, and it became kind of a very focused on illness and particular, on nutritional patterns and things like that. But that was not the spirit of macrobiotics. The spirit of macrobiotics was how do I live my life in a way so that I can be more fully develop my own consciousness and my own understanding of my body and my mind. So, it was the person that I studied with was Michio Kushi, and he was this direct student of George Oshawa's, and he died a few years back. But it's not as popular now as it was in the 60s and 70s, but it influenced things greatly. Right, we introduced seasonal cooking, seasonal eating. Very much all the kind of natural foods cooking, even in commerce. The first natural food stores in America were mostly macrobiotic stores.
Okay.
Which became all over the country, and so it was one of those things that happened underneath the surface of culture, and really kind of spread out, but then lost itself. I mean, there's been religious cults that have had that happen over the years. They really create a change, and then they kind of poof, they disappear into history. But we hold the line. We still hold the line with macrobiotics, right? Because it is very simple. It's very you can teach a child how to do it. And I guess I don't want to go over it on talking about it, but the fundamental is, or one of the fundamental principles is, that you can learn how to know the energy of food. That you can look at food and you can understand by its form, by the way that it grows. You can understand what that food is going to do, and if you ingest it, what's going to be the energy interchange in here, and it's very much centered around or around the traditional diets from the agricultural revolution, which are all grain based. So rice, wheat, barley, oats, those are the central issue, and then a diet gets built around that. If you go onto our website, there's a little free ebook in there called What to Eat, which gives you a complete rundown of it. We recommend people go on, because that's one of the things that we do at the Human Ecology Project is produce these free ebooks and free workbooks, some of which go along with videos, short 15-minute videos.
Thanks for that. Let's move on to the Human Ecology Project and what that is. And it's fairly young, right? You formed it in the last few years. Let's talk about what it is and what it is that you're doing. I think the byline is so interesting. The personal is planetary. So let's talk about what the Human Ecology Project and what you mean by the personal is planetary.
Well, because every single one of us do every day makes an effect, good or bad, to the environment on the planet, right? So when Bill and I were thinking about what does human ecology mean, it means the connection of man to plant to environment. Everything's connected, and I was talking about earlier on, the disconnectedness of everything in the world is so huge. In fact, I've just saw some foxes running past the kitchen door here. They come to have their apples. They come and get fed at night with us. Sorry,
they're looking for dinner.
So the Human Ecology Project encompasses, at the central core always is the food, and from the food we have the environment, we have health, we have society, and we have animals. So it's about connecting the dots to let everybody understand that nothing is separate. We're all connected, and to bring this connection back. So we we started writing, as Bill said, free ebooks, workbooks, which are all referenced with research and scientific studies. And we put questions in the ebooks and workbooks. So say somebody wants to start their own study group at a school, library, community, whatever, church group. They watch the video with Bill and I. It's 15 minutes. It could be about the truth about carbs. It could be what's happening with water. It could be soil and nature. It could be what's going on with the environment. So all these workbooks have these short videos. And I have to compliment my superstar husband at 80 odd years old, taught himself how to make these incredible videos. He downloads all the different cuts. So we work with the script. And once the script's ready, Bill puts all the videos together, so it's like watching a short documentary. And I'm honestly, I'm kind of blown away. But then he says the same about me in the kitchen, right? So people are loving these. So then we thought, how do we get this out into the world for free? So because we were presenting at Oxford Literary Festival last year, I mean, we've written how many books between us? 11, 12 books. But Bill's last book, How to Eat Right and Save the Planet, was the question. And my last book was the answer, and it was called Go Vegan. So that is our story. We have the question and we have the answer here. So we presented these books, and then I had all the vegan menus, right? I created all the vegan menus, which was quite a big deal, Carol, because it's a very conservative type thing. There was a standing ovation for the food, hundreds of people in these 18th century dining halls. It was just amazing. And then we connected with the professor of continued education for Oxford, and now we're starting to be in these schools. So we go to the schools, and even the teachers are coming into the classroom to learn all about the Human Ecology project. So it's hugely exciting, and that's where we focus, and we put our energy every day into it, right? We write blog posts. There's loads of free information on the website you can download, but it's the workbooks and the videos that are going to make the difference, because you can get together with your family and friends one night and say, let's have a potluck and watch one of the Human Ecology Project short documentary, 15 minutes. And then you get the workbook, and then you go through all the questions, and they can all start a conversation. And we've put in like lots of links, right, Bill, so they can do further research themselves, you know. And we feel because everybody's so busy, this was our way of reaching out to, you know, every corner of the globe. Really, it doesn't matter where you are, you can download it. And for people from Thailand or people from Japan and Australia, thank you for this. We had a wonderful study group, and people brought a vegan dish, and so, you know, we're hoping that this is where we're going to keep moving forward. Yeah.
One of the things that we realized too was that, you know, when we first started this, before it was registered as a charity, we realized that many of the things that we had both been teaching for a long period of time, and people are going to say, oh, that's you know, either that's a philosophical idea or it's a religious idea or something like that. We realized, what, there's science about this now. No, I mean, really good, you know, double-blind study, printed science in reputable journals. And it's very difficult for most people to get through the junk that's on the internet, because everybody's got something for sale, you know. And like the food industry, for instance, to pull one name out of a hat, has just puts millions and millions of dollars into providing alternative information, which doesn't really conform to what the research is. And so we feel like one of the things we want to do is be an honest broker. You know, go into that information that's already there, that's been well researched, and that's why we have an advisory board that we have. We have, I think, what, 12 people now. You know, we have psychologists and oceanographers, and you know, and a whole group of scientists, lawyers, whole group of people that have been involved with making this a healthy world, and who are working on a university level. We're not, but we know how to find things. We have the background to go in and know what questions to ask, you know, and when you know which questions to ask, you get good quality answers. And so, you know, hopefully we can continue doing that. Yeah. I know that we will.
And it doesn't cost anybody anything, Carol.
No.
It's all free. They can download, and if they want to print them off or whatever. So that's what we have to just keep focused. We have to just keep saying, come and join the global Human Ecology Project and be a game changer. So you get excited and then you change someone else. We have lived in 7 countries. We have moved 19 times to get work, to push our work out to the world. And latterly, when we were living in Galway in Southern Ireland, which is very beautiful, a group of farmers came to our Ultimate Health Experience, which is a mini break kind of weekend retreat that we run. And of course, they all had health problems. Lovely people. Anyway, after the immersion weekend, they registered for our 4 weeks to vegan. And every single one of these farmers became vegan, right? Because they had the veil lifted from their eyes. Seriously, it's the most incredible. The consciousness started happening through the food, and they started looking, because no one had ever sat them down and said, this is not what the world needs, or this is not what you need to be eating. You can be healthy on, because they all still think they need animal food for protein or for good health. And anyway, I said all these beautiful pigs, right? And all these incredible pigs used to come running down every day to meet me. But the story is, they then educated other people.
Yeah.
So it's like I put the water, drop the pebble in the pond and it sparkles out. So the most unbelievable people have come to our courses, whether they're lawyers and high court judges and barbers and yoga teachers and housewives, people from all walks of life. And they get excited and they love it. We've had actors, we've had, royal families, we've had such a diverse group of people that are students and clients. And, I've trained chefs for them. And then equally, Bill and I can work with Action Against Hunger and create recipes for £1 a day for people that have to live on £5 a week. So, you can go from one extreme to the other. So this is for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
I was just say, to encapsulate this, it sounds like the Human Ecology Project is really mostly about education, and that you have, like, as just a person out here, I can go to the website and I can download and look at all sorts of resources and all of this. I can create, like at my church or a community group or something. I could have groups form around some of these topics.
Yeah.
And, I lead an annual retreat every year about whole planet spirituality. And I'm always encouraging people to take this information into your church and form groups and whatnot. But it sounds like your resources would be great for something like that. And it also sounds like, though, people come to you and you also have like courses. Is that like on site or is that like virtual?
Well, pre-COVID, we used to have, in person, but when that particular drama hit, then a lot of places, a lot of grassroots venues closed down.
Yeah,
that were involved in alternative healthcare, which was just really tragic and really should have been completely unnecessary. And that shut down, and we started having to do more things online. But we're moving back in that direction again. Our goal is, in the not too distant future, to have a place again where we can have people in to do training programs, because that's what's really needed now. We need people to teach people. It's, as Marlene said a little earlier when we were talking before we started, that you have people to come in, and sometimes they're just coming in for themselves. But we want to try to appeal to people always to share out, because it's about planting seeds, and that's a very necessary process right now for people to get information that they can share with other people. Because again, everybody's flooded over with information, and you don't want censorship to rule. You want everybody to have a chance to speak, but you want people to be able to have some sort of criteria that they can apply for themselves and say, okay, this makes sense to me. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, right. So it sounds like the center is food. I mean, okay, so food is from spirit, food is light, And that's the center of everything. It's the center of our connections, our environment, and everything. So that's where we kind of focus attention on. Um, uh, I have to say, as we're talking about Human Ecology Project, I remember just the word ecology felt like it went away for a while. I remember in the 70s, I remember in my early teens, tweens, maybe 11, 12, I remember ecology was like the big thing,
Yeah.
And then that word kind of went away, at least in my own consciousness. And I think it was replaced with environment or something. I don't know. But I love that you brought it back. Maybe it's been back and I haven't noticed, but I love that you've brought it back into your work.
No, what you say is true. I mean, 1970 was the first Earth Day.
Yes, yeah.
And that was when everybody was, oh my God, there were 20 million people in America attended the first Earth Day celebrations. 20 million people.
Yeah.
It's huge. And the Environmental Protection Agency came out of that, and the Clean Air and Clean Water legislation came out of that. It was fantastic. But then it got, as things do, got co-opted by the money. Where's the money in this? And that's one of the things that always kills things. And we move away from ecology, and when you move away from ecology, you miss the whole point. Because the environment, what happens in the environment, and includes what happens in the city and everything else, is a result of ecology. Ecology is the study of relationship. And the reason that food sits at the center of what we do in terms of our biology is because that's the message of ecology. Every animal has to eat, and the source of all food is the plant world. That's the source of all food. It doesn't make any difference what kind of food you eat. It's all sourced from the plants. And it's sourced from the plants because plants are autotrophic. They can take energy from the sun and from water and soil, put it all together. No animal can do that. So we're completely dependent on the health of plants. And what we're doing right now is we're challenging the plant world so bad, and that's being fed back in a feedback loop that is including animals, wild animals, farmed animals, human beings. It's all coming from this central mistake that was made, and that's the ecology. And the environment, there's lots of theories about the environment. I mean, people are even referring to what we're doing right now as part of a digital environment. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What silliness.
Yeah.
Well, we need to keep growing and getting more caretakers, right? Because like you, Carol, we are caretakers of the planet. That's why the planet is the personal was planetary, because the planetary is personal, because we are caretakers, right? We have to take care of our planet, our world. And when of course we have courses running online like everybody else, because people are living so much in the digital world. But you don't taste the love, you don't taste the food, you don't feel the energy the same. But that's what we're having to do, like many other people. People study with us online, and we always try and say to people, do what you can, do the best you can every single day, because if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live? Ask yourself that question. If you don't take care of you, Carol, where are you going to live, right? And I don't want to be a burden to anybody in my life. I am responsible for me, nobody else. I don't see doctors and take medicine. I am responsible for Marlene, who is living 100 trillion cells in this gut. And if I take out my intestines, it's the size of a tennis court. And that's why I'm nourishing every day 100 trillion. 100 trillion of cells making Marlene up. You're right. And every second, 37 million new cells. Every second. The body is a miracle in design. We don't respect it enough.
Yeah.
So while we've been talking, how many cells have been renewed with Carol, Marlene, and Bill? 37 million every second.
Wow.
What are you going to feed? Right. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So we all, we work with people with cancer and heart disease and diabetes and what have you, and bless their hearts, right? And we say to them, Take everything in your kitchen and throw it out, and there's what you want. You want whole grains, beans, vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. You can have a plethora of delicious food every single day that will nourish you inside out, and you will become a happy, joyful person. And that's the ones that become the teachers. That's the ones that become the advocates, right? I mean, it's. I get so excited because you see, the next person I meet is going to be the next caretaker or the next teacher, right? So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
talk to the world every day. I send my books to the Pope. I'm not Catholic, but the Vatican writes back. I send them to King Charles and all the people in the royals. I'm not a royalist, but they write back. Bill said I spend all my money at the post office mailing out books, right?
Oh,
Because that's the only way you change the world, right? By using your voice every single day. So thank you for having us and letting us share our passion with your audience.
well,
Yes.
I love your passion and your positivity. And there is a program running in the world which you know, and that is that I need animal flesh to be healthy. And I know a handful of people who say, I was vegan, I was whole food plant-based vegan, and I just wasn't feeling right until I started eating flesh again. I didn't feel good until that happened. And like, what is that? Because it doesn't make any sense scientifically. It just doesn't. Yeah. And
Well, that doesn't. So I mean, there's a couple of things that happen here. One is that people have lost the art of cooking. And a lot of people
yeah.
who embark on veganism think it's just about cutting things out.
Yeah.
So they cut a lot of animal food out, but they don't make tasty food. That's
Yeah.
that's one of the things that Marlene has really always put forward. People have to have tasty food, and it has to be healthy food. And so, if you're saying, well, this candy bar is vegan because it doesn't have any animal food in it, but it's loaded with sugars and trans fats and whatever, well, it's gonna make you sick. So you have to know what a healthy vegan diet is. The other thing
Right.
is,
Right.
and
And I've
people,
had people say I did a healthy vegan diet. I think there's addictive property in meat too. There's something that people just have a hard time giving up, like cocaine.
well, it is very
Yeah.
much so, and part of that is that I see many people that try to replicate the diet that they ate, but with vegan foods. And
Yeah.
it means they're creating a lot of like artificial meat and artificial
Yeah.
dairy and artificial this.
Yeah.
That's not it, really. You have to kind of uh, commit yourself to go back in time a little bit.
Yeah.
Roll back it, because basically, and this is not really good advertising sometimes, but basically what we're saying is we got to eat a third world diet. You have to eat you have to eat grains, beans, and vegetables. You know,
Yeah.
to start with, and then you can build that out. But there's one other thing that I wanted to just say quickly, and that is that diet always has had a strong emotional connection, and that
Yeah.
emotional connection is twofold. One is we want to be part of society, and another is we want to be part of our culture. I'm separating those two things. So if you're going out all the time, we hear this quite often. Well, I want to be vegan, but when I go out to my friends, they want to have a steak or something like that, and I feel like I don't want to be the person who's left out. Well, we have been, decades eating the way that we
Yeah.
eat, and I've never had a problem with that. You go out and you choose what you choose off the menu, and you stay happy, and you communicate with people, and people say, "Oh, you're not eating any meat." You say, "No, no, I prefer not to." And if they want to ask a question, then great, there's an answer there. But we're not people who look across the table and say, "Oh, you're eating flesh," right? I mean, that kind of approach. You're eating a dead animal. We're not going to do that. I mean, that's no respect for the person. We've all done
It's
it.
not it's not a great selling point.
No, it's not. So I think that people get too uptight around it. And they do things without fully understanding what they're doing, and they just really don't learn how to cook. I mean, even
Okay.
people that are leaders in the movement don't know how to cook.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to say, you look at something. We were watching somebody the other day, who's a big thought leader, in veganism, and they were cooking something. We're thinking, my God, is he going to eat that? That's terrible. It's a tasteless bowl, and then he's pouring sauce over it. I think, oh my God.
We need Marlene's
And it was
Marlene's recipes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think we've talked a lot about the food. I do want to, before we end, I do want to have you share about the animals and the spiritual part of the animals and the ecology there, and also, the forests and the habitats and everything else that we want to take care of. I want to give them a little bit of time on this podcast too. Can you kind of expound on the Human Ecology Project and what you're sharing about the animals and habitats?
Okay. If can I just say, for me, and Bill's the same. When people learn that there are many reasons to refrain from eating animals, right? Not just about diet, but one can feel strongly about one, but maybe not about so much about the others. But some reasons are moral, some are practical. But the moral reasons are the reasons of the heart, right? And they have to do with our caring for animals as sentient beings that have a consciousness just like you and I do. They're not dissimilar from us in their own lives, right? So when out of that caring comes a moral need to respect the life of animals, right? And that's when, I don't want to bang on about, what veganism is and a moral, ethical choice, but that's basically what it is. It's not a diet, right? So the perception of animal consciousness allows us to observe the animals. They feel, they suffer, they bond with others, they raise their own families, they play, they learn. And through their form of thinking, although it might be more primitive than ours, it's apparent that they do think in a rudimentary way, right? And they do therefore have a consciousness. So anybody who holds life to be sacred and finds the reasons of the heart to not take that life, both out of respect for God's creation and out of respect for the individual life of the animal itself. That's what I like to try and put across. And then people have to think about it themselves. And, some insights that I always say to people about healing your own mind, your body, your spirit, in terms of moving towards that. It's just such a beautiful way to live. It's such a joy to live in spirit and feel that, you're not harming another being. And healing occurs through the integrating forces that restore and transform and sustain. And they nurture the whole person. They nurture the body. They nurture the body, the mind, the spirit. And, for me, each phase and every dimension of life and within relationships of the person to the creation, to other people, to God, whatever God means to each person, I look out the window and I see nature, that's God, right? And, I don't know. I wish I could get the world to see through my eyes because it's the most beautiful way to live. I can't tell you. I'm so blessed.
You're living.
I had all these things.
Marlene, you're living in Eden. You're living in Eden, the original creation story where everybody was happy and flourishing and everybody, nobody was eating each other. And I do think, whether you take the Bible literally or figuratively, if you've thrown it out entirely, it's an interesting story that says God, the energy under all of creation, brought everything into being, loved it all, said it was all good, and said, and you guys eat plants and frolic amongst yourselves as humans.
Exactly.
You're pretty high up there in terms of your abilities. So, be kind and take care of everybody.
But there's a couple of things there too with with the Eden story, which are interesting. Or why did we lose Eden? And human beings became arrogant, and it wasn't. This is not about people who were hunter-gatherers who were in an environment where they couldn't survive by their agriculture. This is about making a decision. One of the things that Rachel Carson said was that a lot of the problems with the environment are because human beings are immature. We have to become mature. And we're like children. We're still like children. The decisions that we make are childish decisions. So you look at the world and you see, oh my God, we're killing 80 billion animals a year for ourselves when we don't need to. We know scientifically we don't need to. We know nutritionally we don't. Well, what's that about? And the imagery of man as an apex predator. We're sitting at the top of the pyramid, and we have to get that our control
Yeah.
has to be violently imposed. We have to
Yeah.
impose violence to keep everything under control. And this is
Yeah.
not any different. The decision to not eat animals is no different from the decision to not have war. It's the
Right.
same decision.
Yes.
It's the same decision. We can't force other people by violence to be a particular way, to change a religion, to change a political structure, to change a borderline. Nonsense, right? It comes back to the real simple thing, of just imposing violence. And that whole thing, that's always been a fascinating one for me, that whole thing that we decided we were going to be apex predators when actually we're really weak in the environment.
We are.
When after we killed all the big mammals, we were weak. It wasn't until we started that was something we did when we were in our most primitive state. Every place that human beings were, we killed all the big, slow-moving mammals. And when we did that, then the game changed, right? Ecology showed up and said, you can't do that anymore. There's no more of those big animals left anymore. And so then what happened? We became prey. And then we built cities and we started doing agriculture and said, okay, well, we don't need to fight to live. We can learn how to cooperate with the land, right? And so then of course we screw things up because that's what we do, right? Because we're such babies, right? But we have to really grow up.
And also, yeah, I mean, Bill, when we show our charts of the comparative anatomy, we look at what's, the difference in intestinal length from an animal to a human, the difference in mouth structure, teeth and tongues and amylase and all this stuff. And this is why, Carol, this education needs to be everywhere. I wish someone had taught me when I was a wee girl about all this stuff. That's why I'm so passionate about telling everybody. I'm sure I bore people to death when I'm on trains and buses and planes, and I always have a chat about if someone asked me, what do you do? They're probably sleeping an hour later.
I'm so happy that you do it on planes, dust, and trains, because I don't do it at all. I put up an invisible shield on a train or a bus or a plane.
We all have our preferences.
Right.
Oh dear.
You go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
But I think that it's interesting because your show is focused on the spiritual issue. The spiritual issue of gaining maturity and gaining spiritual awareness, I think, is so important. I think it really is one of the parts of spiritual development. In fact, maybe the main part of spiritual development is to become mature. And that means that you see that you're willing to give up part of yourself to, for other people, that you have compassion for others. Because you're like a parent, you give things up, you give up to the next generation. And we lose a lot of that, and it's, I'm horrified when I see people who are social leaders now and leaders in society that are like children.
Well, the other thing is maturity is you don't do things just because you want to.
Right.
So there's a responsibility, and you can do all sorts of things that you want to do. You can paint a painting, you can write a book, you can, you can create in all sorts of ways. But when it comes to, well, I want this food or whatever, so I'm gonna, kill this being that has a life. That is exploitative. That's irresponsible. That's possibly even pathological.
Yeah.
And we talk about how slavery is bad, exploitation is bad, trafficking is bad, and all of that is bad. And the idea under all of that is this false idea that I have a right to your body. I have a right. I have a right to take your purpose away from you because I want to, not even because I need to, not even because I'm defending myself, but because I want to. That's a very, very, very immature attitude. And it's what's underneath every time we order a meal, every time we put a meal, it's underneath that. So there's no surprise that our planet is messed up as it is. But anyway, back to hope.
Yeah,
Then
hope
back
is
to
always
hope,
there.
exactly.
Hope springs eternal.
Exactly. Marlene, why
Because
don't you?
Leah, yeah, Claire, here's the thing for me, right? And I always say to everybody, volunteer, help others, do things that that take you outside your comfort zone, because gratitude triumphs over difficulties always, right? And uplift your own spirit and be thankful and live with a grateful heart. I mean, we judge people by like a book being judged by a cover. Bill and I have had huge challenges. We lost our home in Portugal, but we moved around. We just got on with it every day. We're not here about gathering materialistic things, although it's not really easy after you've lost your home, trust me. But we just got up every day. I remember when we met in California, we were at a conference, and there was no vegan food. It was terrible. And anyway, it's a big long story, so for another time. But Bill and I connected hugely, and I said, Bill asked me a question. He said, "When did you know you were different?" Now, that might sound arrogant, but he felt that for me. I started crying. We didn't know each other. I said, "Oh my God," I was about 6, right? And we were like this force. No one's ever asked me anything like that in my life. Nobody, no friends, siblings. Talk about meeting your pea in a pod. I mean, it was incredible, and Bill was the same. So,
Am I the pea or the pod?
and ever since yeah. And then, as I like to have a wee chat, I completely went on and on about this book I was writing called Marlene's No Nonsense Guide to Healthy Living. This is a long time ago. And it was all about what Bill taught in the 70s, and he was so polite he didn't even tell me. Too funny. So it's so we live every day with a grateful heart, with the health that we have, and so blessed to be actually had the challenges with health when we were young that took us on this path. And we've changed thousands of lives as well. I mean, really, which has been so beautiful to see. But we need to do more. We need to work harder. And the older we get, we need to work more and more. Right? 7 days a week, we take 1 hour off at night and we meet in the lounge. Bill works upstairs, I work downstairs. We go for 1 hour walk or yoga every day, and then we take 1 hour at night to take a box set. We get our heads out of the seriousness of life. And apart from that, we work 7 days a week, because it's not work, it's our mission.
Yeah.
Right? It's our mission.
Yeah, well, you guys, this is so great. We've definitely gone over an hour. I knew we would, but I want to give you some last minutes to just share anything that you may not have. I'll have to have you back on because we barely touched the surface, I think. but maybe talk about your fundraiser or anything else that you want to share. Bill, do you want to go first?
Yeah, we're doing a crowdfunding thing now online, and the crowdfunder is to kind of budget over the next year so that we can upgrade the quality of what we do. I mean, I think it's pretty good right now, but we have to make it better, and we also have to get out more. So it takes money to open up new opportunities in terms of connecting with schools and connecting with community groups and things so that we can get our work out into the world more. And so we've been very fortunate because we've had a couple of organizations that have offered to get matching funds. And so we created 20,000, which is a very small amount for a charity to run, but 20,000, we'll get 40,000. And within the fundraiser itself, we have another group that's doubling up on donations up to $250. So it's really great, and it really is an assistance to us, and it's a big thing for us because we've been doing all of this out of pocket. We're so naive and we're so focused on what we want to do that we just kept getting buying equipment and getting things and developing a website and developing all the interviews that we have. And Marlene's been doing interviews online for like 20 years, before anybody else was doing them, interviewing people like Colin Campbell and other masters in the field of nutrition. And we need to kind of just gear things up a little bit more, spread our wings a little bit more. And so that's the main thing that we're focused on. Well, not the main thing we're focused on, but it's a thing that we're focused on right now, aside from creating new content. And there's so much good new content to be created. There's good research being done all over the world, and that research really conforms with good ecological and good spiritual principles. That's not the
absolutely. And
intent,
even
not the intention of it, but it's there.
Yeah.
But even the time it takes to put the script and write the script, and Bill's working on one right now on criminology, the criminology of what happens to animals, the criminology of what happens to the human spirit that's working in these abattoirs, the criminality of what's happening to the environment because of that, So we thought that would be a great workbook and video to do for the next one. That'll be number 8. So, that takes a lot of time. And then online, the Human Ecology Project, there's nothing on there to purchase because it's our charity, but our other website, Macrovegan, which is a combination of macrobiotics and veganism, which is both our loves. And on the Macrovegan site, there's lots of things you can purchase, like our full diploma course, or you can learn Oriental diagnosis, which is like self-proofing yourself. You can learn weight loss, nature's weights, that course that I put together. It was a 7-day retreat. You can now do it online. It's a series of videos with me. It comes with a book. There's lots of stuff. So what we want to do is we're going to offer everything on the shop at 50% off for a direct donation to the crowdfunder while that's running, which might help to swell the funds, So like Bill. And then, sometimes we have the occasional clients come here, but it's not a huge home. So we usually just do a couple, like husband and wife, or, a couple coming together, and they do this little mini break. We had a fabulous actor from London there with his partner, and they absolutely loved it. So they have breakfast, lunch, dinner, they have cooking classes, they have lectures and presentations we use the lounge as a little classroom, and it works beautifully. But we want to do that with hundreds of people, right? This is the thing. And so the Human Ecology Project, we just made another fantastic connection there, actually, with someone who is very interested in looking and joining forces with us to help us get plant-based meals into 30,000 schools in the UK, So we have huge gains. We have a whiteboard every day, Carol, and it's jam-packed with all the things we want to do. But it's amazing, right? And we're never going to stop.
I love that.
Are we, husband?
You guys are such an inspiration. And I think what's also just so sweet, in addition to you being soulmates and peas in a pod, that you're working together so well, and you have kind of a buoyant optimism, and that's how without really talking about that directly, I think everyone can sense that. I know I can, and it's so easy to get caught up in what's not working, the tidal wave, how much it seems, quote, hopeless or whatever, that it's really hard for this little old me, to do anything. But your whole attitude and your energy seems infectiously positive, and I have to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's we're not the victims.
No.
This is not a plot to make your life miserable, and oh God, I can't do that, I have to do this, I can't do that. No, come on. This is about doing something good, right? And so we need to keep focusing on that. Yeah.
And maturing spiritually. I love I have lots of takeaways from this, but eating as a spiritual practice is one takeaway, and that this is about maturing spiritually. It's not about something happening to you, and it's not about something that, we have to hold on to patterns and customs and habits, because it's about spiritually maturing. And those are two, a bunch of takeaways, but those are two big ones that I have from today. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
And Carol, I tell you, if I could go around the world and stir the pot for everybody, I would do it. Trust me, because serving people delicious food. Dr. Silas Ray, I don't know if you know him.
I do.
Silas said to me, Silas said, Marlene, if people could eat your food, you would change the world overnight. That's what he said. Silas.
I wish you could cater my daughter's wedding, which is not going to be vegan, but that's another topic. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you so much. And thank you everyone who is part of this episode. I do want to talk again another time if you're up to it, and focus a little more on the habitats and quote the ecology of the environment, the environment or whatever, the trees and the plants and all that, because I think that's something we didn't hone in on quite as much, but we'll have you back. So thank you so much. And all of your links will be on the show notes. And thank you everyone for listening. Yeah, it was really great. Really, really great. And I now close the Spiritual Forum.
Thank you.